Hello, everyone, and today I'm here to tell you the story of the Indian Space Research Organization. In the year 1964, Indian government, with the help of Department of Atomic Energy, shot into space, or what we call as launched, the first sounding rocket to be ever launched from Indian soil. Now, what is a sounding rocket? A sounding rocket is any rocket that carries a scientific instrument or a payload of some sort for analyzing into space, but it does not put the object into orbit. Okay, it releases the object somewhere at a predetermined altitude, and some analysis are done. So India is a pioneer in sounding rocket technology currently, as well as other space technologies, of course. But again, going back, 1964, the first sounding rocket called Nike Apache was launched. These two photos are what the rocket actually looked like. These are black and white photos published in the Hindu newspaper as well as some other media back then. However, it was only in the year 1970 that the government of India, under the Department of Atomic Energy, established the Indian Space Research Organization. The organization was formally established only in 1970. On the 19th of April 1975, India passed one of the most crucial milestones in history. We launched our own satellite, the Aryabhatta. The Aryabhatta satellite was a small satellite launched into low Earth orbit from the Russian rocket. If I'm not mistaken, they used a launch vehicle called the Rocket, or it just means rocket. The scientists at ISRO thought that we should also have our own launch vehicle technology. It was most important both for scientific as well as strategic purposes. On the 18th of July 1980, the satellite launch vehicle, or the SLV, was launched. It carried the Rohini satellite. Now, this launch vehicle was a small satellite launch vehicle capable of carrying only about 40 kgs to a low Earth orbit of about 400 kilometers above Earth. So, this is a very important milestone in the history of ISR. It was only in the year 1981, however, that the SLV launch vehicle had a successful launch, and this again paved the way for our own satellites to be launched by our own vehicles from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, as it is called right now, or just Sriharikota in the coastal Andhra Pradesh region, about 80 or 100 kilometers north of Chennai. India had to develop its own satellite technology because for us, the purpose of developing satellites was to deliver a better quality of life for our own citizens. India was a very poor country, and perhaps to a certain extent, many Indians still are, and therefore, satellite technology paves the way for the citizens to understand, weather better, or grow crops, have better yield, or know where to fish in the sea. All these things are actually, the information is delivered to the fishermen or the farmers by using satellites. The first Indian communication satellites are those satellites that go around Earth at an orbit of 36,000 kilometers above Earth, and they are usually geostationary or geosynchronous satellites. On the 19th of June 1981, the first communication satellite, Apple, was launched. It was owned by India, but it was, I believe, built by the United States and launched from Kururu in French Guiana in South America near the equator. The Apple stands for Ariane Passenger Payload Experiment, APPLE. Ariane was the rocket launch vehicle. The same year, on the 20th of November 1981, the Bhaskara 2 satellite was launched. The Bhaskara 1, again yet another indigenous satellite, was launched on the 18th of July 1980. Going ahead, we then had to build our own communication satellites, and therefore on the 6th of September 1982, you see, year after year the technology has been advancing, and on the April 10th 1982, the INSAT 1A was put into orbit. We have known about India's sole astronaut, squadron leader Rakesh Sharma, and he was the first Indian to go to space on a Soyuz launch vehicle. The famous words that he told the Prime Minister of India back then, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, was when she asked him what India looks like from space, and he said, "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara." So he was the first Indian to go to space. I'll come back to the other Indians going to space, of course, in a while. On the 20th of September 1983 is yet another milestone in the history of the Indian Space Research Organization. On that day, we launched the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, the workhorse rocket of India currently, along with the other one, GSLV. The PSLV, the first launch was not successful. However, all launches after that have been success without a single failure. Similarly, on the 8th of May 2003, the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle D2 was launched from India. Now this rocket was capable of carrying 2 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit, which is an orbit of about 200 or 250 kilometers by roughly 30 to 35,000 kilometers elliptical orbit. The satellite would be launched into the lower end of the orbit, and by using onboard rocket engines, the orbit would be raised to 36,000 kilometers. The GSLV is also one of the workhorse rockets of India today. 5 years later, on the 22nd of October 2008, ISRO became the first space agency of the world to successfully launch the Chandrayaan mission, and it was the first spacecraft launched to the moon which was captured into lunar orbit in a single attempt. So that was yet another feather in the cap for ISRO. Chandrayaan 1 has been, or rather it has given a lot of data about the moon. A lot of science has come out of it. We have discovered even water on the moon. On the 22nd of July 2019, India then launched the Chandrayaan 2 spacecraft with the Vikram lander. Unfortunately, while the Chandrayaan 2 was successful, the Vikram lander crash landed on the surface of the moon. It was the first attempt, however, and Chandrayaan 2 has been giving amazing data since its launch into orbit. In November 2013, India entered Martian orbit with the successful capture of the Mars orbiter mission, or Mangalyaan as we like to call it, into Mars orbit. This again was yet another feather in the cap of ISRO, because no other country before had been able to successfully orbit its spacecraft around Mars in its very first attempt. And the Mars orbiter mission has far exceeded its expected lifetime and has still given or continues to give amazing scientific data to the scientific community. India has come a long way since 1963 to it's almost 2023 now. I mean, in another 2 years. So, what next for ISRO? Good news. We are sending humans to space. And as of now, currently, 4 selected astronauts who are test pilots from the Indian Air Force, youngsters, have completed training in Russia in their Star City or Yuri Gagarin Star City, Moscow, and have returned back to Earth. Now, they will be launched hopefully next year or the year after that on the Gaganyaan spacecraft. It will be attached to the GSLV Mark III rocket and they will be launched into orbit, where they will probably stay for 2 days or 3 days, perform some experiments, and return back safely to Earth. So that's it, folks. I hope I have been able to convey the history of ISRO as accurately as possible to you all, and the visuals and videos that you have seen in this presentation, I hope it excites you, and I hope some of you become aerospace engineers and rocket scientists or astronauts someday. Have a good day. Bye bye, and a very happy Space Week to you all.